Meanwhile, Russia is confidently demonstrating, let's say, a rather optimistic degradation. Degradation, well, as you know, today is the so-called scarlet sales or scarlet piglets, which ends with drinking, fireworks, and mass deflorations on the embankments. This year, I think the deflorations won't really work out, not very well, because once again, everything has been turned into, and this too has been turned into a major police operation. Well, that's a separate question. Why, in fact, make such a big deal out of celebrating the end of school years, which is, generally speaking, a rather miserable stage of life? You can't get your childhood back anyway. You can't cure your aversion to learning, and you won't overcome those nasty school habits. If you remember the literary basis of Scarlet Sales, it too is, I would say, extremely primitive, mysterious, and scandalous. And the plot of this nonsense, Scarlet Sales, is that some local madwoman, in what you might call a strong estrus, wanders along the shore, howling and waiting for her prince. She doesn't care at all who it will be. The main thing is that it has to be a man on a yacht with red sails. There's some minor oligarch there, also not quite mentally stable, who hears about the crazy girl and her red sail delusion, repaints his sails, and rushes over to mate. And the girl truly doesn't care at all who ends up being her deflowerer, as long as, you know, his sails are red. And that's already pretty much a life philosophy. It doesn't matter who it is, crooked, cross-eyed, stupid, a lunatic, even Medinsky, right? If he's got red sails, you have to give it to him. It's like with the red Mercedes, everything else just doesn't matter at all. And all this nonsense written by Grin ends with the rich guy actually sewing red sails, steering towards this holy fool, just like Deripaska once lured a simpleton onto his yacht. Everything that's supposed to happen in such cases happens there. And then there's a wild party on the yacht, and an absolutely aimless voyage of this yacht heading off somewhere in an unknown direction. Well, you can understand a lot, but from the point of view of so-called values and morality, all these setups are questionable. All right, let's set aside the idiocy behind this whole affair, shall we? And we see once again that poor citizens are being herded together, cordoned off, driven away from the embankments, forbidden to watch these yacht parades and fireworks. And they're taking the opportunity to practice once again their methods of suppression. And now all these popular amusements and public celebrations are in general always a good excuse for the regime's thugs, for the riot police, special forces. Sober units to get some practice and hone their crowd suppression techniques. Well, no matter how you comprehensively look at it, the irreversible countdown for Russia's historical trajectory has already definitively begun. And this profound process is now entirely unstoppable. The regime is very afraid that when the critical moment comes, it won't be able to regularly and reliably pay for these services. The enforcers, who will instantly lose their so-called love for the motherland as soon as they stop getting paid. But the opportunity for violence, the opportunity for routing these to some extent serve as compensation, and for a while their salaries also work as such, but not for very long. But in general, it's important to understand that Epauletsyn Russia, besides everything else, a license for rape, yes, for rape, beatings, and robbery. But then, honestly, even this structure falls apart and stops functioning, even on this basic fuel, so to speak. And all these oprikniks, all these button wielders, scatter to fend for themselves, seeking their own sustenance and entertainment. It's funny that the voice of these scarlet sails wasn't even Buzova, nor was it Volokova, but rather someone named Kadisha. If before this decline in taste, this current poverty of taste among the Russian masses was camouflaged by a certain hype, exoticism, or modernity, now even the need for that disguise is this. And now, what's in vogue is a crude, desperate wail with a cucumber stuffed in one's cheek. These are the kinds of chants, the chants of serfs. It is precisely these that please the ear and mind of Russia.